Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have two great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: a worker asks for a 50-cent raise to be paid equally to new hires, but is denied, despite having worked at the company for 3 years. The second story: entitled Supervisor Who Bullied My Name, Cheated on My Paycheck and Was Exposed. The first story is: I asked for a 50-cent raise so I could be paid equally to the new hires, and was told no, despite being at my place of work for 3 years. A story as to why you should talk about wages. Some backstory: a week or so ago at my place of work, for any legal reasons I'm excluding the name of the place, name of my boss, and any other exact details, I had talked with some of the new hires about how they felt working at our place of work. This eventually led to the question of how much are you getting paid, which I find to be a normal question to ask someone I work with. Not being a stranger to the idea of discussing wages, I found out the new hires make $1 more than I do. We work for wages. It's not some big white-collar job. As the title reveals, there are a few issues with that. I don't think I should make less than someone who works the same position I do. To make this clear, and this was a point I made to my boss, I don't think I should make more either. I simply wanted to be paid the same amount as the new hires, because why would I make less than someone who just started last week? Some context: I talked with a friend of mine who works the same job and he gets paid the same as I did. He's been there for 2 years, and we had a plan to talk to our boss about wages since we thought it was unfair. After waiting a day and trying to figure out how I wanted to go about this, I figured the best move was to just go in with it and ask outright. I even considered recording the entire thing, by the off chance that the story would blow, and I could at least expose some of the BS I was expecting. For some context, my boss seems to only care about herself, and a bit more of this will come to light when we get to the encounter, but I think this context is important. She doesn't do anything to help. She drops a lot of her responsibilities and conflicts on the assistant manager and supervisors. And before anyone comes in with delegation is, shut up. I know, but this isn't delegation at this point. If you need to do a refund and she's next to you, she has no idea how to do one. She doesn't know how to open or close the store. She doesn't deal with rowdy customers who are asking to directly speak with her. She doesn't do much of anything but hold her title and drop all of her work on people she doesn't even care about. I wish I was exaggerating all these points, but in the last few years I've had to watch my boss strut around and flirt with the security guards where we work. I've come to terms that she's completely and utterly useless. Encounter: now comes the fated day and I walk in to start my shift about 15 minutes early. I walk into her office and mention that the new hires make $1 more than I do, and can I get the $1 raise to be on equal footing with them? She regards the $1 as a rumor, but insists it's only 50 cents, which isn't really the point. I asked her where anyone got the number from if it wasn't true. The value itself is like XX and 50 cents, and not an even amount, so it's not something someone would be specific about unless they were told about the specific amount. In most cases, people round up, but several new hires confidently told me XX50, and I have less of a reason to believe that they'd all collectively decide to lie to me than my boss would. She claims she doesn't know. Which of course she doesn't know, right? I decided to jump to my next point and mention that there's no reason anyone new should make more than someone who has been here for years, and she insists that it's then more experience. I've been working since I was 16. I did several years in fast food joints before working at the retail place I'm at now. I'm 25. Some of the new hires are 19. In what capacity am I lacking experience? I brought this up and asked about what she meant by experience. She then jumps to a new excuse of my position. For context, when I was hired for the job to be a supervisor and for my first 2 years, I had run the 2 stores we managed on my own until she got there. There's another long, taxing story with all that, but I was demoted for some shifty allegations that I've yet to have been proven guilty of. Allegations that should have had me fired, but they kept me anyway. Literally any business would fire me for what they accused me of, but they didn't. But they did have new supervisors come in like 2 days after, so evidence that suggests I've done anything doesn't add up, and I'll probably talk about that later. I asked for proof on any of that. She stuttered and then jumped to a new topic. She then mentions I had a raise when I came back from the COVID lockdowns. I'm not going to say after the pandemic because it's not after the pandemic. We're still very much in it. This wasn't a raise as she adjusted the wages of workers at my job to try to compete with the mass wage increases from places like McDonald's, Walmart, and etc. I went back because I felt more comfortable with my job, even if the wages were less than the places I've mentioned. She tried to pass this as a raise and said that was why I couldn't get the $1 raise I'd asked for. I questioned that, and then she goes, well, I haven't had a raise either, and I told her that these things are not the same. You're on a salary, which she does have. I'm on wages depending on if I get hours, no paid vacation, and I work weekends and holidays. She makes money whether she's there or not. She gets a paid vacation. She doesn't work weekends. She has openly bragged about never doing holidays. The fact that she tried to put herself in my shoes really just displayed a massive disconnect and annoyed me, but I had to keep my cool. She then goes, "Well, you don't care about my wages, so?" And I had to once again tell her that we're not having the same discussion. Another excuse, so then I move on as I'm basically just racking up more reasons to hate this woman at this point. I then ask, if I quit, you're just gonna hire someone at the same rate of pay that I'm asking for, and she then tries to pull out the same cards. Finally, she says, talk to the guy above me, and when I openly express how much I would love to do that, she refuses to give me his contact information and says she'd talk to him. He comes to the store frequently, so I decided I'd talk to him myself, but she claims she has no idea when he'll come in. I asked her to let me know when, but of course she tacks on, I know he'll say no, and the company doesn't have the money, which I find to be funny, since we had 15 people quit or get fired in the 2 months I've been back. They have money for all these hires, but not enough money to give me an extra $1? She then called me unprofessional for talking about wages, which was honestly just it for me. At this point, I walked out of her office and gave. I had almost walked out, but the issue with being in the working poor is that walking out is not something I can just do, as much as I'd love to do so. I'm looking for jobs, so when I can quit, I will do so as swiftly as possible. There were only a few things that came out of this, but a few other people who have been underpaid also spoke up that day about their pay. It's to light a fire under my boss's A, but I don't think it'll do much, but I was a bit happy that my cry for a fair wage was able to rally some others a bit. Asking for a 50-cent raise, really? Come on, man, you gotta aim higher. Jokes aside, your story highlights a real issue in the workplace that people tend to shy away from, discussing wages. It's ridiculous that someone who's been at a company for 3 years gets paid less than someone who just started last week. And it's even more ridiculous than your boss tried to make excuses for it. More experience, my foot. You should have asked her to explain how a 19-year-old with no experience gets paid more than a 25-year-old with years of experience. I'm glad you had the courage to bring up the topic of wages, and I hope your story inspires others to do the same. Keep fighting the good fight. The second story is, that one time my entitled supervisor felt stupid after messing with my name and my salary. Fake names for privacy reasons. For context, I've been working at a BPO since June 2021. I was offered to join a new campaign since October 2022 and eventually joined. In addition, I requested vacations last December, as I was going to spend Christmas and New Year's Eve with my family, as per usual, which of course they were approved. On to the main story. I returned from these vacations at the start of January and everything went fine. However, as soon as I returned, I was informed by management that the team I was working with had been shuffled, because all work teams are to be shuffled every 4 months as per the client's order. Not a problem. I was assigned new workmates, which would be fine, until I met my new supervisor. The name was Rhonda, slightly blonde, a bit chubby, and a grin that said that she was friendly. I was so stupid to fall for this. As soon as Rhonda introduced herself as the new supervisor, she mentioned something along the lines of, if there's something I care a lot, it's about your salary. Anything wrong with your payroll, let me know. Again, there came the boring game of having to introduce ourselves to the entire team. It was my turn and went like, my name is Eric, nice to meet you, before sitting back. But then Rhonda retorted, nice to meet you, Cedric. I was told by other workmates at the time that Rhonda sucked at remembering names, so I just let it pass at the time. Days went by, and whenever I was called for coachings and whatnot, Rhonda would continue to call me Cedric. I told her that my name is Eric on several times, but she seemed to throw the same I can't remember your name correctly card excuse. It was a bit funny at the start, but it eventually became a nuisance and I started to believe she was calling me another name on purpose. One day I had a coaching session with Rhonda. This was about the time I had to put a stop to this nuisance. Following the coaching, I asked her why she was constantly calling me another name, because this SH was no longer funny. At first, she tried to play dumb and attempted to use the same excuse. I cut her off, looked at her dead in the eye and told her, I know you're just messing with me, just stop because this is not funny anymore. Rhonda dropped her dumbfounded facade and replied, you got me, it's simply because your face doesn't look like Eric. What the F? You're just messing with me because I don't look like my name suits me? I then returned to my workplace after leering at Rhonda because of a ridiculous game. Enter February and Rhonda didn't seem to have gotten the hint, because she kept on effing with me. I have the habit of double-checking my payroll. When I checked it, I noticed that the day I worked was marked as a day off. Again, I was a bit shocked and was about to ask Rhonda what was happening. Before I could even go to her place, she informs us that there had been an outage with the payroll system, and everyone in the team would appear as day off for the day. I was a bit relieved. The next day, it seemed that everyone's payroll was eventually fixed. Everyone but me. It was my second day I was being marked as day off. Having a gut feeling that there was something off with my payroll, and much to my frustration, I went to Rhonda and asked why wasn't my payroll fixed. She went like, "Sorry, Cedric, it seems that there were a few other agents that are still having problems with their payroll, but your salary will be fine. Trust me. Oh, and don't ever tell another supervisor about this, okay?" That one sentence felt like a red flag to me, and I thought, hold your horses, there's something wrong here. It was the third day, and again it was marked as a day off, but this time I wasn't having it. While Rhonda was out to lunch, I went and asked Jack, my former supervisor, about what was happening with my 3 missing days of work. Jack revealed that everyone's payroll was already fixed shortly after the first day's shift ended. However, Rhonda not only lied to me, she was stealing my payroll money. The bad news is that he had to send an email to the shift manager, as he needed authorization from him to modify the payroll from someone that wasn't on his team. On the next day, 4th day, I checked my payroll once again, finally fixed. In a matter of coincidence, it was Rhonda's day off. It was at this time when Jack approached me and we had another talk. Jack went like, "Got it, we've got your payroll fixed, but there's a problem. The shift manager also sent a copy of the email to Rhonda. I'm sorry for that." I replied, "Don't worry about it. I'll deal with Rhonda on my own. Thank you." Came Friday. I was sitting in my workplace doing my thing when Rhonda approaches me boiling mad, as if I told her some profanity. She screamed, "I told you not to tell anybody about this, you moron." I stood up and looked at Rhonda dead in the eye and then said, "Not only you continue to disrespect me, not only you lied to me, you tried to take my salary. What the F is wrong with you?" Rhonda gets peeved and yells, "That's it, I'm gonna fire you for this." I became already stressed out from the altercation, so I told my TL that I was gonna take a cigarette break. Following that break, I continued doing my own business and nothing happened. 2 days off later, I came back to work and then I noticed that Rhonda hadn't come to work. At this time, the shift manager called me to his office. As soon as I entered and sat down, I saw Jack already there. It was at this point where I was told that Rhonda had been fired. It turns out that more evidence was found that she had had a lot of escalations over her head, as she always felt as if she was entitled to bully her own agents. In addition, the company already filed a lawsuit against her for fraudulent activity, and all because she refuses to call me my actual name. God, your story had me in stitches. I mean, what kind of supervisor would make such a joke about their employee's name and salary? It's just ridiculous. And what's worse, Rhonda wasn't even good at it. I can't believe she actually got caught stealing your money. I'm glad you were able to work things out. I'm just shocked. Did Rhonda really think she could get away with it? With her "don't tell anyone about this" thing? God, that's ridiculous. She deserved to be fired. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. See you next time.